What if I told you there are just 3 words, only 3, that can shift your vibration so powerfully, so directly, so absolutely, that money itself begins to respond, to turn, to move in your direction, not slowly, not someday, but now. And these 3 words didn't come from a modern coach, a viral trend, or a motivational book, but from one woman who walked boldly in spiritual law, when the world still doubted it could be done, a woman who taught that your word was your wand, and your belief was your bridge, Florence Scovel Shinn. And these words, though simple on the surface, carry within them a hidden instruction, a divine order that the universe, and yes, even money must obey. And the 3 words are this: I obey wealth. Not just I want wealth, not I chase wealth, not I need more money, but I obey wealth. And before your mind says, wait, shouldn't wealth obey me? Hear this: Florence taught that whatever you obey in spirit, obeys you in form. Whatever you align with in consciousness, serves you in experience. So when you declare I obey wealth, you are not lowering yourself. You are not giving power away. You are sensing with divine substance. You are merging with the flow of supply. Because the law is not about domination, it's about agreement. It's about harmony. And she wrote, man must prepare for the thing he has asked for, when there isn't the slightest sign of it in sight. That means your preparation is your permission slip. Your vibration is your invoice. Your alignment is your attraction point. And when you say I obey wealth, you are becoming the atmosphere where wealth belongs. You are no longer a beggar at the gate of abundance. You are the gate. And the gate swings open with the sound of your voice, with the sound of your faith, with the resonance of your inner speech. And you say it again, slowly, surely: I obey wealth, not as a servant but as a student of divine order, not as a victim but as a vessel of divine flow, not as someone hoping for crumbs but as someone calling the banquet. And when you speak those 3 words, with presence, with conviction, with joy, something in the air changes, and you feel it, don't you? A hum in your chest, a warmth in your hands, a tingling in your spine, a stillness in your mind, because your soul recognizes the law behind the words. And Florence taught, the invisible forces are ever working for man who is always pulling the strings himself, though he does not know it. So now you know, now you see, now you remember. You are the one pulling the strings, you are the one commanding the current, you are the one shaping the outcome. And it all begins with what you choose to obey, because the law is not personal. The law is not emotional, the law is precise, and it always delivers. So if you say, I obey fear, fear multiplies. If you say, I obey struggle, struggle continues. But when you say, I obey wealth, and say it from the marrow of your belief, from the center of your being, wealth begins to move toward you, not out of pity but in response to recognition. And that's the key. Florence's hidden teaching wasn't about forcing reality, it was about aligning with truth. And the truth is this: money is not your master. Money is your mirror. And when you look at it with fear, it hides. But when you look at it with clarity, it answers. When you look at it with joy, it celebrates. When you look at it with reverence, it remains. And Florence taught that supply is spiritual, not material, that divine substance is already present, waiting not to be earned, but received, not to be chased, but claimed, not to be begged for, but expected. And when you loop this phrase, I obey wealth, I obey wealth, I obey wealth, you aren't worshiping money. You're worshiping alignment. You're tuning yourself to receive. You're reminding every cell in your body that you are safe to have, safe to hold, safe to multiply. And this is where the shift begins. The deeper you go into this mantra, the more you feel the chains breaking. Not outside, but inside, the chains of poverty thinking, of shame-based earning, of hard money programming, of generational limits. Because you weren't born to serve money, you were born to serve divine law, and divine law carries wealth in its hands. And Florence wrote, Infinite Spirit is never too late. With its magic and power, my good now comes to pass, in a surprising way. So let it come, let it surprise you, let it arrive without struggle, and say it again with breath, with belief: I obey wealth. And let that phrase become your tuning fork, your sacred bell, your energetic password. And here's where the magic multiplies, when you don't just say it in meditation, but when you say it when things look low, say it when bills come in, say it when doubt creeps up. Say it when you walk through your home. Say it when you tap your phone. Say it when you touch your wallet. Say it when you're tempted to shrink. Because every time you say I obey wealth, you're choosing alignment over anxiety. You're choosing law over luck. You're choosing certainty over circumstance. And this is the great secret Florence left hidden in plain sight. Your word sets the tone, and your tone sets the throne. And the question is, what are you crowning today? Are you crowning fear or faith, scarcity or sufficiency? worry, or wonder. Because wealth is not something outside of you. It is something responding to you. It is something echoing your frequency. It is something dancing to the music of your belief. And when that music says, I obey wealth, the whole universe leans in and says, yes, here, now. So you've said it now. Maybe once, maybe twice, maybe dozens of times. And you're starting to feel it. Not in your mind, but in your field. Not just as an idea, but as an atmosphere. Those 3 words, I obey wealth, they start as a whisper. But if you let them, they become a commandment. Not to the world, not to others, but to your subconscious mind, to your energy, to the invisible law that Florence Scovel Shinn spoke of so often. She didn't speak to manipulate money. She spoke to magnetize it. And this is the difference. This is the line. You don't need to force wealth. You don't need to earn wealth in struggle. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, especially not the world. You simply need to align, and in that alignment, you enter the obedience of spiritual law, and in that obedience, you gain dominion. Because obedience to divine law is not submission. It's not weakness. It's not passivity. It's power. And Florence wrote, there is no peace or happiness for man until he has erased all fear from the subconscious. And what is fear, really? It is false obedience. Obedience to lack. Obedience to pressure. Obedience to systems that were never built for your expansion. But now you choose new obedience, higher obedience, holy obedience. And that obedience sounds like this: I obey wealth. Say it slowly now. Let the syllables fall gently from your lips. I obey wealth. Say it again. Let your body catch the rhythm. Ib obey wealth. Now let your breath move with it. I obey wealth. Because something happens when you repeat a phrase with emotion, with feeling, with belief. You're not just repeating it. You're reprogramming. You're not chanting, you're choosing. And what are you choosing? You're choosing to believe in the abundance that has always belonged to you. You're choosing to follow the frequency of provision. You're choosing to tune out the noise of scarcity and tune into the melody of more. Not more striving, not more hustle, not more suffering, but more life, more ease, more yes. And Florence would say to you now, God is the giver and the gift. I cannot separate the source from the supply. So when you say, I obey wealth, you're not bowing to dollar bills or numbers on a screen. You are synchronizing with the source that flows through all things, the source that already knows your name, the source that answers not panic, but peace, not begging, but boldness, not noise, but knowing. And you know now. You're starting to remember. You're remembering that you were never meant to worship money. You were meant to work with money, to dance with money, to let money become a tool, not a taskmaster. And when you say I obey wealth, you are saying I agree with the flow, I walk with the law, I receive with reverence. Now breathe with that, because something magical happens when your words and breath align. Your nervous system softens, your thoughts pause, your heart opens, your field expands. And Florence would remind you that every thought is a seed, every word is a decree, every feeling is a prayer. And when those 3 align, thought, word, feeling, you step into the current of manifestation. The river starts to move. And you don't even need to know how, because obedience to wealth is not about logic, it's about permission. And maybe, just maybe, this is the first time you've given yourself permission to receive without guilt, to prosper without shame, to increase without apology. Let that sink in. You don't have to prove yourself to receive. You don't have to perform to be worthy. You don't have to suffer to be spiritual. That's old programming. That's old obedience. That's a false god. And Florence shattered those idols with her truth. She said, nothing stands between man and his highest ideals and every desire of his heart, but doubt and fear. So what happens when you remove the doubt? What happens when you stop obeying fear and start obeying flow? You rise, you expand, you attract. And what you attract arrives, not because you chased it, not because you tricked the universe, but because you became the frequency that made it inevitable. And the truth is, wealth is not something you summon, it's something you unlock. And the key is already in your hand. It's in your mouth. It's in your phrase. I obey wealth. Loop it with me now, not as repetition, but as realization. I obey wealth. I obey wealth. Now soften your voice and say it with a smile. I obey wealth. Let your cells receive that message. Let your inner child hear it and know we are safe now. We are safe to prosper. We are safe to grow. We are safe to receive. We are safe to have. We are safe to keep, because we are no longer obeying trauma. We are no longer obeying generational scripts. We are no longer obeying scarcity stories. We are obeying truth. And truth brings provision. Truth brings order. Truth brings overflow. And Florence called this truth the law of expectancy. She said, man must make the first move. Draw near to God and God draws near to you. So this is your move. This is your moment. Your decision to speak the new law into your life. And as you speak it, everything begins to rearrange. Conversations shift, thoughts soften, opportunities rise. And money listens. Yes, money listens. It listens to your vibration. It listens to your boundaries. It listens to your words. And when your words say, I obey wealth, you become magnetic. Not frantic, not desperate. Magnetic, because magnetism is quiet. It's confident. It's calm. Just like Florence, she didn't scream to manifest. She declared it. She didn't argue with lack. She ignored it. She didn't try to control outcomes. She obeyed law, and law responded. Every time. It must. That's the beauty of it. The law does not need your effort. It needs your agreement. And that's what this phrase is. A statement of agreement. A vow of harmony. A contract between you and the universe. I obey wealth. I obey wealth. I obey wealth. And here's the secret. Money has always wanted to serve you. But it can only serve where there is clarity. It can only enter where there is space. It can only multiply where there is belief. And belief doesn't scream. It whispers, it smiles, it knows. And you know now. You know that every time you loop this phrase, you are doing more than affirming. You are activating. You are stepping out of the old code. The code of fear. The code of pressure. The code of waiting. And stepping into the new. The code of peace. The code of faith. The code of divine receptivity. Because you are not chasing. You are attracting. You are not forcing. You are flowing. You are not lacking. You are aligning. And it all comes back to this sacred loop, this golden frequency, these three simple, eternal words, I obey wealth. Now we begin to see it, don't we? Not just as a phrase, not just as a mantra, but as a shift, a sacred turning point, where identity meets divinity, and you become someone new, not by effort, not by ego, but by energetic agreement. And when you say I obey wealth over and over, not because you're hoping, but because you're knowing, not because you're desperate, but because you're deliberate, something inside you says, yes. That's who I am now. And this is what Florence Scovel Shinn called a demonstration. Not just a hope or a wish, but a manifestation anchored in certainty, backed by law. Deliver the path of least resistance. Because she said, before the demonstration comes the conviction. And what is conviction but spiritual authority? It's when your words no longer come from the surface, but from the source. From the part of you that remembers you were never meant to lack. You were never meant to scrape, or strive, or settle. You were born to walk in rhythm with supply, and supply was never external. It was encoded in you. Your only task now is to remember through repetition, to remember through vibration, to remember through sacred obedience. And when we say I obey wealth, we're not just setting intention, we're issuing an instruction. To the subconscious, to the field, to the universe, to the old patterns that no longer have a place. We're saying, this is the new law I live under now. Not the law of hard money, not the law of lack, but the law of easeful increase, the law of generous returns, the law of unshakable support. Because Florence didn't teach from guesswork. She taught from results. She watched the impossible bend. She watched the unexpected arrive. She watched people transform, not through toil, but through truth. And she always returned to the word. Your word is your wand, she said. And in that, she meant your speech is not decoration. It is creation. Your voice is not passive. It is prophetic. Your phrases are not filler. They are fuel. And so we loop again, I obey wealth. Feel what happens when you say it after something difficult. Feel what happens when you say it before a decision. Feel what happens when you say it to the mirror. It doesn't just echo. It activates. Because you are not just saying it. You are becoming it. And as you become someone who obeys wealth, you stop obeying its opposite. You stop obeying fear. You stop obeying financial trauma. You stop obeying that old belief that said you had to struggle first, or shrink to be loved, or give until empty just to earn your keep. You break that contract now. Right now. With your voice, with your breath, with your conviction, and you write a new one. One Florence would call a divine decree, a soul command, a holy agreement, and it goes like this: I now align with the rhythm of supply. I now receive without guilt. I now walk with wealth as my natural state. I obey wealth, and in doing so, I command its return. Breathe that in. Let your nervous system catch up to your soul. Let your body catch the new rhythm. Let your mind surrender its control. Because the law doesn't move through control. It moves through compliance with truth. And truth is simple. Truth is clear. Truth doesn't argue. Truth is. And Florence was bold enough to speak that truth at a time when women weren't heard. She taught supply while others taught suffering. She taught flow while others taught force. She taught law while others taught luck. And now her voice is becoming yours. Her teaching is becoming your turning point. And it all begins with the phrase that carries her legacy into your life: I obey wealth. Again, I obey wealth. And this is not about arrogance. This is not about getting rich quick. This is not about greed. This is about agreement. This is about your soul's yes to abundance. And abundance is not about taking more. It's about becoming more. It's about stepping into the identity that was always meant for you. The one not weighed down by worry or overwhelmed by the opinions of others, but the one who knows, when I walk with the law, I walk with power. And Florence said, God is never too late and never too early. God is always on time. So if you're hearing this now, it's not by accident. You didn't miss your moment. You didn't fail your chance. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. And now, your obedience to wealth will show up as obedience to inspired action, obedience to nudges, obedience to intuition, obedience to clarity. You'll start seeing things differently, hearing opportunities differently, responding to money differently, and it may come quietly at first. An idea, a phone call, a cancellation that makes room for a blessing, a delay that opens a better door. That's the law at work. That's your obedience becoming form. And that's when you know you've crossed the threshold. You're no longer the one chasing money. You are the one commanding flow. Not from ego. From energy. Not through faith. And Florence would remind you, faith is expectancy. Faith knows it has already received and acts accordingly. So now you act accordingly. You speak accordingly. You plan accordingly. You invest accordingly. You tithe accordingly. You give accordingly. You rest accordingly. Because obedience to wealth changes everything. It changes the tone of your life. It changes how you walk into a room. It changes how you hear the word, price. It changes how you ask, how you earn, how you give. And this is the ripple you've been waiting for. The moment the old scarcity identity dissolves and the new self rises, quietly, confidently, permanently. And all of it starts with the phrase, say it again with knowing. Say it again with love. I obey wealth. Again, I obey wealth. I obey wealth. Until it doesn't feel like something you're trying on, but something you are. And now you become the one others look to. The one whose presence is peaceful. The one whose life is proof. The one who walks with Florence's law not as theory, but as testimony. And the wealth you obey now will soon obey you. And now we come full circle. From a whisper to a wave, from 3 words to a frequency, from inspiration to identity, from curiosity to clarity, and perhaps for the first time. You don't just understand the phrase I obey wealth. You feel it. It's no longer something you're learning. It's something you're living. It's no longer outside of you. It's moving through you, working for you, surrounding you, and preparing to return to you in ways you cannot yet imagine. This is not just a mindset shift. It is a field shift. And Florence Scovel Shinn would remind you now, in her calm, timeless voicing, what man feels deeply or images clearly is impressed upon the subconscious mind, and carried out in minutest detail. So what have we done here together? We have impressed the subconscious. We have rewritten the code. We have spoken the law. Not once, not twice, but again and again, until it broke through the old resistance and began to form new instruction. Wealth is now obeying you. Because you've made the first move. You have obeyed wealth. You've stepped into your divine pattern. You've surrendered to spiritual law. And now that law must serve you, not because you begged, not because you proved your worth, but because the law cannot return void. The law only returns fulfilled, and your fulfillment has already begun. Even if it hasn't shown your bank account yet, even if no one else sees it yet, even if the world still tells you it's hard. You know better now. You walk by knowing, not by noise. You walk by law, not by lack. You walk by truth, not by trends. And that truth is now a fire inside you. A steady, quiet fire. The kind that warms everything around you. The kind that melts resistance. The kind that draws people, provision, peace, and prosperity to your side. Not because you need them, but because you've become the type of person who receives them naturally. And it all began the moment you said, I obey wealth. That was your declaration. That was your shift. That was your return. And Florence's voice is whispering still, nothing is too good to be true. Nothing is too wonderful to happen. Nothing is too good to last. When you walk in alignment with the law, and you, dear listener, are now walking in alignment, you are not what the world told you. You are not what your fears tried to convince you of. You are not bound to your upbringing, your debt, your delay, or your doubt. You are a vessel of spiritual flow. You are a channel of divine increase. You are a steward of infinite supply. And the moment you obeyed wealth, wealth began moving toward you. It may show up in the form of ideas. It may appear as synchronicities, support, serendipity. It may come as a sudden moment of courage, or a calm decision to walk away from what no longer matches your frequency. It may arrive as new habits, as bold asks, as open doors. But it will arrive. It must. Because you have obeyed wealth, and wealth obeys law. And law is always on time. Even when you don't see it, it is working. Even when it looks quiet, it is rearranging. Even when it feels still, it is preparing. And Florence would remind Yug, faith is elastic. It stretches to the full measure of your desire. And your desire is sacred. Your desire is not greed. Your desire is divine. You were never meant to suppress it. You were meant to speak it, live it, honor it, and allow it. And now you're allowing. You are letting yourself rise, letting yourself receive, letting yourself return to the version of you who was never afraid of money, only taught to be. And now you are unlearning. You are healing. You are restoring. You are choosing a new obedience, not obedience to fear, not obedience to old stories, not obedience to scarcity, but obedience to wealth, to spiritual wealth, emotional wealth, financial wealth, peaceful wealth, steady wealth, overflowing wealth, not for ego but for expansion, not for control but for contribution, not to prove but to become. And you are becoming now. Every time you say it, every time you think it, every time you feel it, every time you breathe it. I obey wealth. I obey wealth. I obey wealth. You've looped it into your being. You've stretched your faith with it. You've aligned your field through it. And now you live by it. Quietly, peacefully, boldly, beautifully, because the most powerful obedience is not loud, it is steady, not frantic. It is faithful, not forceful. It is certain. You don't need to convince anyone of your shift. You don't need to justify your abundance. You don't need to shrink to fit the comfort of those still living by the old script. You are here to show what it looks like when spiritual law is obeyed. You are here to embody what Florence taught, not just in words but in energy, not just in quotes but in outcomes, not just in beliefs but in blessings. And now you walk in that blessing. You carry it, you live it, you breathe it. I obey wealth. That is your quiet rebellion. That is your divine revolution. That is your legacy. So write it somewhere sacred. Speak it before sleep. Whisper it when doubt returns. Use it when you feel low. Declare it when you feel strong. Let it be your bridge. Let it be your banner. Let it be your agreement. Because it is already done. It is already unfolding. It is already on its way. All you need to do now is keep saying yes. Keep choosing alignment. Keep walking in faith. Keep looping the law. And when the moments come, as they will, when the noise gets loud again, when the fear tries to creep in, when the old thoughts return, don't panic. Don't push. Don't plead. Just pause it, breathe, and say it again. I obey wealth. And the universe will hear, and the law will respond, and the blessings will follow, quietly, consistently, completely. Because once you speak in alignment with the divine, you never walk alone again. You walk with the word. You walk with the wand. You walk with the wealth. So go ahead one final time, speak it like it's already true. I obey wealth. That's it. That's the doorway. That's the rhythm. That's the root. You've found the 3 words. The hidden teaching. The living truth. Now gob and let money follow you.